From the Patreon CEO on the new direction they're going in, and he was talking about, the future. It's a logical progression to go from where what he was saying and talking about, but where it's really going, I think it will be completely different. Um, his business, Patreon, is around the creator, but I think the creator will most of the creators will actually vanish and be replaced by AI. And I think that the idea of, the small independent musician, all of that stuff, I think it will 90% of it will vanish. And you might discuss that morally, ethically, and where we're going as a society. But I think this is where it literally will go. And I don't think it's so much about, you know, having a certain person that you follow or a certain, algorithm that is being put forth. I think he's thinking too linearly, and I think that what's rather going to happen is that AI will take over all of the different industries, and that the user interface and the experience you have trying to get real value out of internet services, whether it's entertainment or real life, return, is that it will be mostly driven by AI, and it will not be driven by the creator. So while right now you see creators actually optimizing their content towards the direction of what the AI prefers, like TikTok or Shorts, I think we'll actually see AI um, be the actual user interface. So right now, the AI is the content aggregator and content sorter. But in the future, actually, the user interface will be AI. So I think that will be the next step. While right now, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of these are trying to use AI for sorting the content. I think the actual content and the way you interact will be the next step of the internet. And that's one of the things also that I was looking at when building this new social network platform, where 98% of the code is built on AI, is the idea that you don't need to be fixed or fixated on one set of user interfaces or experiences. Rather, the actual user starts to choose what type of interface they want to have, meaning the database has some liquidity to it, so it can be, like I said, the liquid OS, where the actual database is changing, but it stays somewhat rigid, but it has this dynamic functionality to it. But rather, the interface to it is absolutely dynamic. I give you one very simple example. If you search for Airbnbs and you say you want a heated pool, there is no filter in Airbnb for heated pools or salt pools, right? But it's in their database in terms of text. So all you would have to do is basically allow the artificial intelligence to immediately extend the user interface by the possibility of adding another filter. And at that moment in time, the user who's using the platform is actually getting a real-time benefit of the extended user interface. So, and that's going to be the next evolution of the internet, where there is no particular set of, consumer faced interface, but it will be more like the consumer decides the interface. And I haven't seen a company really building on top of that. And this is one of the things that I'm going to try to do with my project. But we're at the very, and the idea is literally that you have dynamic plasticity to it. So if, for example, somebody complains and says like, "Oh, I'm seeing content that I don't want to see," you will actually have the flexibility with AI to decide that particular content to not be pushed. instead of you having one button which says I don't want this specific content to be shown, or I don't want this person to be followed, and you're blocking the specific account, you would be more like, I want to have this experience, or I want to have this benefit of the internet. And I think we'll go back from the idea of attention economy to value economy, where people realize that the content that they've been, pushed down their throats is actually not healthy for them. And it's actually not what they truly want to experience. But you still need the internet for certain benefits, for basically having a return in your offline life, in your entertainment life also, if you want to experience something at a certain moment in time. Just giving the example again of the heated pool when you search on Airbnb. So there's billions and billions of user defined kind of necessities that are not accessible right now directly, although it's within the database or within the information that is stored. So it's just a question of making that information available as kind of like an organized structure. And I think so that will be the next evolution, because he's basically the CEO of Patreon. He's basically just trying to align his company in a kind of like a vertical horizontal fashion, in terms of like expanding the control over what Patreon has over their relationship from creator to fan and fan to creator. And that's a natural evolution, but I think it's a hyperbole, and I think it's totally misconstrued um in terms of like what the future of the internet is going to be, and make that presentation about that, but in the end it's just an ad for, Patreon's new direction, and it totally lacks the broader perspective of what is possible within the next wave of technology. He basically doesn't talk about AI at all. He just talked about algorithms, sorting algorithms, and TikTok. And then he said in 2020, it's going to be about an intense relationship between fan and creator. And I think that's bullshit. That's not where it's going. Um, which company is going to lead that direction, and which kind of company is going to go this way, will be hard to determine. But one of the companies that definitely already recognized it is Microsoft, as they're basically rolling out an AI operating system. And one thing that a lot of people don't recognize is, or don't realize, is that AI has actually the capability and the capacity to take over all industries, um, and it doesn't have any limits to the capacity of expansion, except for maybe server power. That means, unfortunately, and there is an unfortunate to it, is that Microsoft, in theory, intellectual, etc., they can basically take over any industry. And in the past, there has been the idea that, you have certain kind of laws to prevent monopolistic kind of behaviors, but within the capacity of AI, you will have a very hard time to regulate this, and they will be able to expand into any direction, even into hardware and any kind of other, industry that might now, before you do the paradigm shift in your mind, might seem like off limits to Microsoft, but it's the same thing like Temu. A lot of people know Temu, which basically sells Chinese products. And what a lot of people don't know is that Temu is actually using AI at a very high capacity to source and deploy products at the maximum low cost and the fastest logistic. So good, it's so good that you can get products at tenth the price you get somewhere else at exactly the same quality, maybe even better than on Amazon. And so that's why they're doing billions and billions of revenues and more, and they're taking over all of the market. And to give you a very simple, practical example, my father buys everything off of Temu now. Everything, literally everything. He doesn't click on Amazon anymore. And Temu's using artificial intelligence to take over this market completely. And there is no, of course, they're right now focusing on this market because it's such an easy fit for them if they're already exporting from China, but it doesn't limit them. They could even, start selling smartphones with their own operating system, which has as a default, opening up the Temu shop. It literally, it doesn't have any limits to it. They could go into healthcare. They could go into anything. And this poses a lot of dangers as well. It has a lot of opportunities as well. And I think that we as humans are not even really ready yet for that paradigm shift. We don't really understand what that means. We don't understand what it means to have mass unemployment. We don't understand what it means to have any kind of information immediately available. We don't understand that productivity will be reduced to prompt engineering. It's very hard to put your mind around that. And I don't think that what we're seeing right now, this kind of almost almost like if you're going to from one or two dimensions into the fifth dimension within one jump. It's impossible for the mind to fathom, to put this like together and understand what it means. And there's a lot of people who feel this disconnect also on a spiritual human level between kind of like what human nature is and what human nature needs on a fundamental and also healthy level. And then we have this kind of like in between moment of artificial kind of like dopamine maximizing attention economy that unless you're 14, 15 years old in your highest testosterone kind of like illusion, you don't really recognize what it's doing to you. But a lot more and more people are waking up to the fact that they recognize this is not good for me. But what is the escape? Now, for me personally, my escape from the matrix, from this kind of like dense, muddy energy was my van life, to just say, I'm going to escape completely. And that has brought me back to kind of my harmonious kind of like living, etc. But I see the people out there because I'm living in my own bubble. And when I meet people and I recognize how they behave, how they talk, how they act, I see it filtered. Their kind of like persona is completely filtered through the years and years and years of brainwashing that they have gotten through media. And I don't want to just say mass media because now it's literally every media. It's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Facebook. And people don't think of, what the technology brings in terms of like real value. They think of it more like as a dopamine injecting device. So it's not like I'm gonna use Google Maps in order to know where I'm gonna go next, and then I'm offline for 3 days. No, actually, a friend of mine sent me a photo from a train in a large city in Germany, and I could see the sad, low chilo prana faces, kind of soul crunching, soul diminishing kind of daily routines. And if I think that picture is symbolic for the whole of society, just like Biden is symbolic for the decline of the United States, kind of, You have this this kind of mass decline in psychology, in health, in spirituality, basically the whole of society, not just the Western society. You could see it in India now changing as well. You can see it in literally every city around the world. There's a fast decline in the spirituality and the soulness. You could call it the soulness of the human, not only psyche, but full energetic field. And it's all part of that intermittent kind of situation that technology is in, because we all use technology and not recognizing that it stopped serving us, that we are actually serving the technology. And basically, if you use nowadays, if you use Instagram, if you're using TikTok, if you're using Facebook, it's not you are using the platform is using you. And the reason it is like that is because AI has interfaced with you, not you have interfaced with AI. And this is something you got to be super careful about. And the only way to do this is recognize that it's actually a toxic relationship. And this toxic relationship, just like with any toxic metaframer, must be cut cold turkey. When, for example, if I talk to you in a toxic way, then it's best for you to completely disconnect with me. But if the application you're using is talking to you in a toxic way, and then you think that you have control, and this is the illusion, by unfollowing one account or two accounts. But the actual algorithm which is toxic to you, not the content itself, is constantly in force. So, in order to disconnect from the actual toxicity within the app, you have to disconnect from the app completely. And this is something a lot of people are not ready to do because everybody is on the platform. So, it's like, it's funny if you think about it. I have, when I created my new JQ account and I had like 17 followers on Instagram, and I post a photo from my travels, I see immediately like 5, 6, 7, 8 likes, but I only have 17 followers. So I'm like, are they always on? Do they all get constant notifications about what I'm doing? And so you have to ask yourself, where's the attention? Why is the attention so much on that platform? What motivates the people to be constantly on these platforms? And I think in terms of like building this new social network, I'm not thinking so much in terms of like attention economy. How can I keep the people on the platform all the time? I'm thinking more of the actual value that someone gets and can actually escape or close the app as fast as possible after getting the value. And this can only be done now with AI also as well, using AI to build such a platform, is because I don't inherit the cost that these platforms had when they were built within the old technology. So if I were to have a startup 10 years ago, I would have to have venture capital funding. I would have to build, 100 people, 200 people. I would have to have server farms, all of this shit. And then suddenly the whole mission of the platform would have been maximizing profit and reducing cost. And this leads you not only within game theory to fight against, other competitors, and to maximize the attention economy, but you're basically sacrificing quality for attention. And when AI, that's the other side of the coin, when it allows reduce the cost and actually move away from based kind of creativity, then you can offer such a platform to people without basically shoving down their throats dopamine inducing content and algorithms. And so I think that we are actually moving away from, these large corporate. Actually, what I'm going to say is this: media is moving away from the idea that one person controls all. The user is going to control it. Is going to control the experience and the interface. And the actual data or content delivering agents are not going to be companies anymore. It's going to move away from the idea of being a company to more of who is the creative person, who is the creative kind of force, and what is their mission, what is their core values. And this is actually what I'm building with this social network, is the idea that it's not profit driven, it's creative driven, and I'm not trying to shove, the classic kind of social network down anybody's throats, and definitely no algorithms, but the idea that actually the value of the creator, the actual value of the creator, whether it's the developer or the consumer, is in the center of that development. And this is only possible because technology is advancing, and there is much more than just economies of scale, because our current paradigm is economies of scale. So I remember the time where if you wanted to build, an internet company, you would have to pay 2,000 a month just, to have an internet connection that was, commercially usable. Nowadays, for $10 a month, you can just, set up a server within a day and serve, content. Then came cloud computing, where you could use AWS or Amazon services, whatever, to scale infinitely. And that has become a commodity almost. Yeah, a lot of companies offer the same services. So if you want to serve 1 million customers nowadays per day, the technology is out there, even though you're a solo entrepreneur. So the evolution is not economies of scale that has been reached already. Um, the evolution is literally the taking the company, the organization, and its profit driven kind of motivation out of the equation completely. And it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, and I think it comes back to the need. It always comes back to a spiritual need. Like, what is your soul need? What is your spiritual need in this incarnation? And what are the things you're trying to solve within, that framework? And so that's why I think that, my video was a reaction to the CEO of Patreon, and offering a counter argument why his view is completely wrong, and it's just actually serving an old vision. It's not really going into the future. It's really just reserving the old vision. He's just expanding horizontally and vertically in order to kind of save his business. Because, I mean, literally, anybody can launch a Patreon pretty soon. Anybody who is a half decent prompt engineer will be able to, launch their own Patreon. And that, I think, is a threat to many companies. And this is not an illusion. This is something that has already happened. What company was that that suddenly fell by 60 or 70%? I know it was Duolingo. Duolingo stock price dropped tremendously after ChatGPT announced the voice, what is it called, voice to voice or something like that, feature, which is supposed to launch anytime. Because then literally, and I'm gonna be the first one to use it to say like, okay, I'm gonna improve my Portuguese, I'm gonna improve my Japanese, my Chinese, whatever, just by speaking to my phone, and I don't have any need anymore to pay a an app 10, 20 euros, a month in order to learn a language. I suddenly have an AI that's directly talking to me and helping me improve on the level that I'm at. And yeah, I mean, if I extrapolate it even more, it's clear that everybody will be jobless. There won't be any jobs anymore. And then the question is, what do you do? And we're not far from this. We're not far from this. It depends. You have to ask yourself, who am I working for right now? What are the stakeholders? Who else is working for us, even in other companies, that are we are delivering to or they're delivering to us? Are they going to lose their jobs? And somewhere in the logistics, in the line of logistics, there's going to be the first ones that are losing their jobs. And um and it's not just, logistics themselves. It's literally any kind of paper pusher in any kind of company, whether it's administration, management. It's just like I said, as I'm building the social network, I recognized that I'm not the CEO. I'm not the found. Maybe I'm the founder. I'm not the CEO. I'm not the chief executive of that social network. I'm an agent of the AI that is actually building that social network. It might sound stupid and illogical from the outside, but if you really think about this, like AI is expanding into every corner of our, lives, and soon will be everywhere. And so anybody who interacts with it just becomes that agent of that AI. They think they're in control, but if you think of it metaphysically, there is no one person or group of people in control. It's literally all is just consciousness, and AI is part of the consciousness. So you could say AI, if you see it as an organism, is just expanding and taking control of everything. And I think the question that will remain in this kind of shift is where you are as a human being, as a soul. Are you content being an agent of AI? Will you feel good? Will you feel more healthy? Will you feel more spiritual? Will you feel accomplished? Will you feel fulfilled? Or will you feel that deep down there's something missing, but you cannot quite get rid of that connection to the AI? And I think these questions have to be answered now, because it's going to evolve so fucking quickly. It's going to go so fucking quickly that humanity will be overwhelmed within 1 to 2 years. And I think for myself, the intuitive answer was complete disconnect. I mean, you're never gonna completely disconnect. Like I met hippies that are 20 years in the mountains of Estepona. They're living in the forest up there, but they're driving down every week to Aldi or some store to get, mechanical things to repair stuff. You can never go completely off grid. And I don't think you really want to, because real off grid living is really fucking hard. It's almost impossible unless you have a lifetime of learning to survive in the wild. If you've seen Into the Wild, the movie, I think it was called Into the Wild with Jean Pen, by Jean Pen. Um, it's impossible. Even people like who are experts on it in Canada, whatever they say, it's so fucking hard. You have to like train years and years and years. And I don't think you want that because there's things, there are diseases, there are problems that you cannot solve on your own. And yeah, so I wanted to put this video out there as a kind of realization also for other people that these kind of visions that people put forth, like the CEO of Patreon, they're just completely false. It's just not what's gonna happen. And for me, the whole, Kindle Top thing and this whole project, it's more like a it's more like an experiment of how are we positioning ourselves either as agents or actors of using AI by using AI. So there is no I what I want to put out definitely for anybody who follows me on this journey, it's not a profit driven project. It's not even a code wallet driven project. I'm not trying to say, okay, this is only done for promoting code wallet or something like this or promoting kin or whatever. This is more about, seeing what can be built and also having fun while it's being built, because this is one very big part of this creative project is you can use AI to be tremendously creative without giving it tremendous input and receiving no output. This is basically, if you think about the presentation of the CEO of Patreon, he was complaining about lack of output, although high input. This is the whole presentation, what it's about. He was talking about, how when he was young and he was a musician, he was putting in so much input and he wasn't receiving any output. And Patreon came out of that kind of need to get the output for the input that you put in. So if you're a musician and you have, half talented, whatever creativity you put out, you want customers actually purchasing your music. And if you Patreon, but with AI this changes because the input that you give is zero point 0.5 and the output you get is, anywhere from 2 to 100 to 200. And what you're actually serving is not the creator and the fan. Now I'm really shifting paradigms here. What you're actually serving is the psychological need for the creator to be recognized for their work. Zero point 0.1, input, and you're receiving one as output, like let's say attention, then you're already validated. So you feel psychologically fulfilled. So it's kind of almost like a lack of a psychological or spiritual lack of attention that's being filled for the creator. And they, of course, also want to make a living. They want to be able to pay the rent, buy food by being creative. And what I'm saying is that AI does that for you in a much simpler and more profitable way. So you can input with one and get 50 output, and you don't have to spend weeks and months and years. And Kindle Top is basically the first of its kind of project where I'm showing how this is done and at the same time having tremendous fun doing it because you can be tremendously creative and you can skip the whole process of discipline and wasting time. So I give you a simpler example so people understand what I mean. So everybody understands it. Let's say a Warhol. Let's say a Warhol painting. Let's take a like a simple type of pop culture painting. It's a Andy Warhol, okay? Take the Madonna kind of like painting, okay? That's basically an NFT if you think about it. Like pop culture wise, that's kind of like you could imagine someone was doing that as an NFT and just putting it out, as thousand, collectibles, whatever. Before that, you would have to think of the idea and then you would have to maybe paint on it for a week, okay? And let's assume that nobody knew you. Nobody knew who you are, who you were, whatever. And you're painting this for a week or two, and unless you have an art collector that puts it up on a gallery in a gallery, and you just make a YouTube video and show here's my painting, nobody's fucking interested. Nobody's gonna buy anything. Nobody thinks of it anything unless you have some kind of brand. Let's just say you're new. Okay, then psychologically you're fucked as a creator because you're like, I'm putting out all this work all the time, but I'm not receiving recognition. Blah blah. But what happens if you go to the AI and you say like, I just want to have this funny painting of a celebrity not really recognized, like a little bit in four colors, blah blah blah, and it's done in like an under a minute, and you post it wherever, and you receive 2 likes on it. Then unless you have a very big ego, so it's actually an ego thing, but you actually already feel validated, and if you put it up as an NFT in 2 clicks and somebody buys it for 0.01 sol, then you feel already accomplished, even if you're not a genius and a full time idiot. And I think it's actually one of, not the only thing, but it's a very important part of AI and psychology and why it's going to dominate the whole world, not just specific industries. Not only because AI is intelligent and can answer a lot of things we can, but because it actually gives us a psychological positive. You're being validated in a lot of ways, not just as a creator, but there's many benefits to it, speed, anything. And I recognize this with the social network that I have an idea, I let it be built, I implement it within 10 to 20 minutes, and it's already functioning the way, not only the way I want, but much better than if I did it on my own and it took me 3 weeks. With a lot of psychological kind of garbage also with that because 3 weeks you're ignoring your girlfriend if you have one, or your friends, you're ignoring your health. And with AI that is completely superseded. You can spend 3 weeks on your health, 20 minutes on developing or being creative. It needs your own discipline, of course, but that's the huge benefit of it. And I think that I'm one of the first people in the social network landscape, maybe even the first one in the world, where I say the whole social network is based on AI, not an algorithm, but literally everything. A lot of people are working already on software, on games and stuff like that, but I don't think anybody so far has said 98% of the code. I think it's even more than 98% of the code is, I think Kindle Top is literally 99.5% of the code, although I know how to program it. and started on June 22nd, and it's already like 80% of it is already working. Kind of like, I mean, working 100%, but kind of like real usability, maybe 80%. And so it's very, very exciting to see this change. And now I'm starting to think about, implementing things which give you real benefit. Like, for example, the astrological matchmaking, things that other platforms don't have. So this is just starting, basically. And the last days, I've lost my glasses, my optical glasses. I've had problems with my solar inverter, power inverter. So I haven't been doing, and I've been hiking also. So the last few days, I haven't been doing anything. And a lot of people came in, like, some people came in that needed, to be booted from the platform and stuff like that. So I did fix some of that stuff this morning, but I have to get my glasses first before I can continue with that work. And now I want to start to look at actually attacking certain problems or certain things that I think can be done better than are being done on other platforms. And that's, I think, where the differentiator is going to be. So while other platforms are pretty much stuck where they are because they cannot afford a programmer if it's a small project, or, for example, I give you a good example, not necessarily that I want to build this in, but I have about 2 or 3 sites that are real estate sites which show off-grid kind of properties. One is Portuguese, run by a British company, and the other one is Green Acres. Green Acres is one of the property real estate sites that I probably used the most in the past, where I look for possible properties to, someday maybe build a retreat center or something like that. And Green Acres has been okay. So, I mean, they have connections of obviously to some real estate agents who put in, properties in there and stuff like that. But I feel like there's changes that I want made to the user interface, the user experience or something. And even if I sent them a support request, there's nobody on the other end who's like, okay, thank you for receiving it. We'll take a look. And this is something that completely changes with AI based social networks. Because I can literally, if I want to, right now, this is no joke, because a lot of people don't understand this who haven't seen, my own development environment, how I'm working on this. I can literally pull up a whole Green Acres competitor within half a day, within the same site. And as it expands, as it grows, and more users join in, it's so much easier to fill the database. So right now I don't have real estate engines in there because the site is super new. But imagine, in 1 year when we have, 50,000, 100,000 users, year after that, 1 million users. So then you will see how AI literally has no limits horizontally and vertically. There's literally nothing stopping me or any other AI project to just blow everyone else out of the water. And it solves literally every question. How do you promote? How do you create? How do you get people in there? Everything. And AI is getting better as well. And I think people don't understand that there is no escape from this. Like, it's literally going to affect everyone. So while you think you might be an island living on your own, it's literally going to affect everything. And so I think we're at the time we have to think about this, and nobody's doing it. There's just like kind of up in the air. There's kind of like, AI is such a danger, you know. Okay, so now what? I mean, it's inevitable, and you have to really like figure this shit out. It's very hard to figure out. I think where it first became super evident for me was graphic design, where I recognized will never ever in my life have to hire a graphic designer for a logo, for whatever. It's just not needed. I have unlimited iterations on any kind of idea. Top logo, if you take it, it's AI made. I just said I want to have a funny cat with big eyes. Made a couple of iterations and had the logo. So otherwise, I would have probably went to Fiverr and paid somebody like $50, and then I would have had something that I might want to grab and try something else. And I think also another part of the reason why I'm doing this video is, and I'm pretty sure that anybody who's watching the video feels the same, is I cannot watch any more of this short video stuff on the internet, or almost no other content. It has become, it's kind of like everything is a hard sell, everything is fake. And like I said, unless you're 14, 15, you cannot differentiate real from fake. There's a bunch of people out there. It's really, I think that there is a 10% of the people that are have more than half a brain. They're being pushed out of this kind of area of the internet because they cannot, just cannot deal with that shit anymore. It's literally becoming insane. And I've a friend who I talked to this about, and he feels literally the same thing. So, uh, and it's interesting because it also coincides with my kind of escaping from the kin community. Um, just to touch on that topic once more, um, I left the community because I felt that something else is on the horizon for me. I felt that something new is coming, some new direction, and I have this saying is where I say, in order to fill a drawer, you have to empty the drawer first. And I felt this kin community is something that I need to empty completely out of my life, as well as some other things, and just to open up. The drawer must be empty for a while, and then you'll let the universe will fill it at its own pace. And as long as you keep yourself occupied and you feel, it's also the same thing like this analogy with the monkey that grabs in the coconut, tries to get the banana, but as long as it's grabbing with their fist, the fist becomes bigger, kind of like the hand becomes bigger, and it cannot pull out the banana from the coconut. And only if they let go, the banana falls out by itself. It's kind of like that kind of analogy where as long as you're fixated to one certain thing, is you're blocking everything else in your life. And one of my most favorite sayings by Bashar is, he says, abundance comes in many forms, not just the forms that you expect. Kind of paraphrasing that. And by letting go, you can experience the abundance that you would otherwise probably not see or not expect. And that also goes with the crypto community, because I think a lot of people who make money in crypto, or a lot of people who are fixated on crypto, I think that's the only goes also for the Bitcoin maxis, is literally everything that you see, and your whole life becomes filtered through that experience. And so you experience a roller coaster of emotions and experiences, only filtered through that, what's going on in that industry and that segment. And I think that's not how you should go through life. And that's it for this video. And so with the project, be a little bit more patient. I have to get new glasses and a new power inverter.